Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now. It is Thursday, January 26th. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith. And it's good to see Alex with us, feeling good enough to power through. He's like Patrice Bergeron from last week, where he took a puck in the face, not feeling good, but he comes back for the next shift because that's what he does. And that's what Alex is doing today on this Thursday edition of the Ice Guys show. Alex, how are you feeling?
Good. Yeah, thankfully it wasn't a puck to the face. It's been stomach issues.
Yeah,
and
this
stuff
ain't
like
that
that.
bad.
It ain't that bad, but it's still no fun. But yeah, just feeling well enough. And like I said, this is a good card. I'm like, didn't want to miss today's show. Like I don't want to miss any shows ever, but especially today. It's some good plays, and kind of touch on what happened last night. And it's funny, I tweeted it this morning because I didn't even actually, like I said, I was so sick yesterday, I didn't even pay attention to it. What happened with Carolina? I called it. Yeah, I'm glad. I hate that I was right about it, but we talked about the goaltending situation and what happened, another injury. So I wanted to talk about that and some of the stuff from last night, but definitely looking forward to tonight's game as well.
Yeah, no question. Last night was, again, a shorter card. Leafs beat the Rangers in overtime. That was a great hockey game, back and forth, very even. Edmonton, Columbus, Edmonton does this every now and then. You know, they have a game at home and a clunker. It kind of felt like they were due for one because they had some extended time off. They're on a win streak. There was no Evander Kane last night, and they fall victim sometimes, the Oilers, and they did last night, losing in overtime 3-2 to Columbus. Carolina gets it done against Dallas. I was happy to see that. Bit of an up and down night on the betting board. The props did well, and our guy in the chat here, Adam, is certainly pointing that out, that you're right, off the top of my head, Adam. And you know what the funny thing is? And you mentioned all these player props that won last night. Like, I think I bet two of them, honestly. That's it. I just forgot to get them in. Donato, I did have Donato. I did have Garland, and I did have Yarncroke. But I didn't have anybody else there on that list. I was talking Hyman, and I didn't bet Hyman. I didn't bet Marchenko. I didn't bet Johnston even from Dallas, who found the back of the net last night. I had a couple of them, but not all of them. But I know I mentioned all those guys that you put up there. Yeah, Hyman, Nylander, Tolvanen, of course, for Seattle, who has been found new life, obviously, since he's been with the Kraken. So, yeah, if you heeded my advice on goal scorer prop yesterday on the show, you did quite well.
That's impressive, honestly. Like I said, to have that and plus money, it's one thing. Okay, to bet 10 games, but you're laying, $1.15, $1.20, but to hit something like that and everything. I think what was the cheapest price there that was listed? Was it plus 160? But there's like everything
was
like
probably Hyman. Yeah, it was the Hyman bet. Yeah, plus
400. So so when that's a hell of a night if you can hit all of those. So. That's a great.
No, it was. That was good. Good to see that. We'll see if we've got some good options in the bargain bin here tonight as well on the slate. So let's get right into it. It's a big card. We got 9 games. Let's get started with probably the game of the night, one of the games of the night for sure, Boston and Tampa Bay. We've got the Bruins minus 115, slight road favorites, 6 the total in this one. This is just a bet for me where it's don't overthink it, don't overcomplicate it. You've got this Boston Bruins team that is just having a historically good season. They haven't shown any let up. They haven't shown any let down, whatever way you want to phrase it. Even the Montreal game, which I honestly think was an impressive win, 4-2, because they played their like C- or D+ game. Like if you've been watching the Bruins this year, that was honestly like a D+. If you were a teacher and you were evaluating the quality of that performance, that was D+ from the Bruins the other night against the Montreal Canadiens, and they still found a way to win it. So very impressive. Now they go to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay did bounce back after 2 straight losses with a win against the Minnesota Wild. We did like Tampa in that game with the Tampa in regulation. I know Alex was on that. I was as well. We also jumped on them live in-game Tuesday night on our betcast at around plus 160 to plus 170. That's about the range it was when we all decided, down 2-1, we're going to hop on Tampa Bay here. And we all cashed in with Tampa Bay's comeback against Minnesota there on Tuesday night. So Tampa Bay looking to follow that up tonight. But at the end of the day, this is a Boston Bruins team that just finds ways to win, that's got scoring from all four lines. It's not all Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak anymore. They're getting depth contributions. The defense is chipping in from the blue line offensively. You've got obviously Linus Ullmark, who, by the way, I was looking, is up to about minus 175 in terms of winning the Vezina Trophy in the futures market. So talk about the odds-on favorite, the heavy favorite here to be the Vezina Trophy winner. It's Linus Ullmark. He's actually playing better right now than his counterpart in net, who will be in net tonight, Andrei Vasilevsky, who I think's been a little shaky, a little bit just not quite Vasilevsky type performances from him here the last several games. So it's just, don't overthink it, don't overcomplicate it. This is as dirt cheap a price as you're ever going to see with the Boston Bruins with the season they've had. So Boston for me, minus 115 in this one. Alex, Bruins and Lightning.
Yeah, the first thing I did this morning was, checking the numbers. I grabbed Boston minus $1.10. Like I said, don't overthink it. They've played the Lightning well. And the Six of Boston, they don't lay too many eggs this year. The way that they've been playing, they've been rocking and rolling night in and night out. And that Tampa Bay game, like I said, it was a Vasilevsky performance. That was the reason why I liked them in regulation, liked them live. Vasilevsky stood on his head in that game. If he had a mid-range game or below average game, Minnesota wins that game probably 5-3. So he can steal you a game and give you those performances, but you wonder, can he string those together? We have seen him do it before, of course, especially in the postseason, but he has kind of struggled a little bit against Boston recently, and I think this is a Boston team right now. Like I said, especially heading toward the break, and we talk about that now. With just a handful of games left for teams. Boston wants to just keep this momentum going as best as they can. So I think this is going to be a good spot for them on the road, and I like Boston to get the win.
Definitely in terms of we both like Boston here. As far as the prop market goes in this game, there's actually some good options. Brandon Hagel's got a point in at least 1 point in 8 of the last 10 games, and his point props like minus 130, minus 135. Yeah. I think that's an excellent bet. Score a goal, same thing. Worth a look there. As far as the Bruins, keep your eye on, we know Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak. Goes without saying. Those guys are always a threat every single night for the Boston Bruins. But Pavel Zacha is someone really to keep your eye on right now for Boston. They've got him, they've got basically a nice little thing going here on what they're deeming the check line, as it's called. Zacha, Krejci, and Pasternak. They've basically been together on that second line for the Boston Bruins. And Zacha in particular, he's been a hit or miss offensively. There's been more hits lately, especially when you look at from a points perspective. Pavel Zacha has 3 goals and he has 6 points in the last 5 games for the Boston Bruins. His point prop is a plus price tonight. Pavel Zacha for the Bruins, for a guy that's got 6 points in the last 5 games for them entering tonight. So I think that is an absolutely terrific player prop option. If the goals he might score, but the points is where he's really been cashing in, because a lot of his points have been assists. So I think points at around plus 120 to plus 125 with Zacha here tonight, just to register 1 point, is definitely something worthy of consideration. And the Bruins have had the better of it against the Lightning. They've already won 2 meetings against the Lightning this year. Back in November, Boston beat them in Tampa 5-3. And then the very next week, everyone thought, Tampa may be looking to avenge that in Boston the very next week, and Boston beats them in that game as well, 3-1. So, yeah, I know Tampa, certainly Tampa Bay, you're going to see them focused. This is now a team that has overtaken them as the lead dog in the East. I'm sure the Lightning are going to bring a great effort, but, the Bruins, when you see this team, Tampa Bay, you always know it's also going to get the best out of the Bruins in a spot like this. So it's going to be a great game. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a 38-win team with just a grand total of 9 losses all season. They're 38-9. If you combine regulation, overtime, and shootout losses, they have 9 losses on the year.
Quickest to 80 points in NHL history. And I think I'm basically 10 or 12 points away from officially losing that under. So.
Yeah. So basically, it's a team that's had an insane win percentage this year. 38 wins. You add up the losses, it's a grand total of 9 combined losses this season, which means, and that's why I have to win or lose. I'll live with it if the Bruins lose, but I have to bet Boston at minus 110 to minus 115 when they've got an 81 win percentage this year. 81% is their win percentage this year for the Boston Bruins, and they're minus 115. The math is in your favor. All right, the value is in your favor if you like the Boston Bruins here. So yeah, Alex and I both liking Boston here tonight. All right, Detroit and Montreal. We've got Detroit minus 165 road favorites. The total 6 here in this one. I don't like this spot for Montreal, and here's why. You played Toronto, huge game. A game that will actually get you fired up and stoked when you play the Leafs, your rival. You want to beat them. Even this young Montreal rebuilding team, in the Connor Bedard sweepstakes, you get up for a game like Toronto. They did that, and they beat the Leafs on Saturday night. Then against Boston the other night, you've got a Bruins team that's an original 6 rival, traditional rival, a lot of history with those two franchises. Even a young, spunky group like Montreal, Alex, they get up for Boston. You play them hard, and they did the other night. We were watching it on the BetCast. Montreal was even leading that game 2-1. 1-0, and then Boston made it 2-1. Montreal tied it. That was 2-2, and I had my miracle lottery take a shot in the dark 6 draw parlay thing going. And that game got to a 2-2 in the third period. And Boston needed a late Bergeron goal and then an empty net goal to put that game away. So that's 2 empty the tank, step up efforts from what's still a pretty, weak hockey team. Let's be honest. They are, a team that is, obviously, one of the bottom feeders in the Eastern Conference. I don't trust now Montreal to bring it tonight after those 2 games, Leafs and Bruins back to back. And now you play Detroit. I don't think it's gonna stoke this Canadiens team the way it did the last 2 games. And I think it's obviously a situation Detroit might be able to take advantage of here in this game. It is worth noting this has been a series where we've seen a lot of the home teams do well. Although Montreal did win the last meeting 3-2 in Detroit back in November, but I would consider Detroit in regulation in this game. I'm looking at it over. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I'm close. We're just waiting to see who's in goal for the Red Wings. Jake Allen has been confirmed for Montreal, and I honestly don't like backing Montreal with Jake Allen, and he hasn't played in forever. His numbers aren't particularly good either coming into tonight. The stretch of play he had before his recent absence from the team was not very good, if you ask me. So, you empty the tank to play the Leafs and the Bruins. That was all-out effort. If you watch those 2 games, Montreal cared. Montreal was locked in. Montreal was wanting to win those games very much. And then, of course, you end up falling short. While you beat Toronto, you fell short against Boston, and now you play Detroit. I think this is where maybe that flat spot happens for the Canadiens. And again, keep in mind, this is still a team that's only 20-28 on the season. Detroit does have issues winning on the road. That is a mild concern. But again, Allen and net, I don't trust him to be great after all the time off. And again, the numbers dictate as well that he's had a pretty rough season for the Canadiens. Against Montembeault has actually been playing well for Montreal lately. Yeah. So to go to Allen might actually be a downgrade at this point in time. 3.52 goals against, 892 save percentage for him. Again, we don't have a goalie confirmed for Detroit. We assume maybe it'll be Husso, but again, hasn't been confirmed. But either way, I'm looking at Detroit here in regulation tonight against Montreal. Alex, Red Wings, Canadiens.
According to Daily Faceoff, it is confirmed that it's Husso within the last 20 minutes, but I'm not sure of that. I still want to check Twitter to get an official confirmation. But more than likely, that's what it's leaning toward. And if that is the case, I'm going to be on Detroit too. I'm seeing minus $1.05 to minus $1.10 in regulation. Like I said, this is a half team you just can't back right now. And with Allen, he said kind of being the weaker of the 2 goalies and just to have just being in poor form overall. He said, this is kind of a bit of a letdown spot potentially. I just feel like this could be a good spot here for Detroit and a decent price. So anything in that $5, $10 range in regulation, I'd pull the trigger on that with Detroit.
All right, good stuff indeed. Oh, I forgot to mention the Boston game too. Taylor Hall is on the top line tonight with Bergeron and Marchand. So keep that in mind. So there's value on Taylor Hall tonight in that Boston and Tampa Bay game as well from a prop standpoint. So yeah, I think it's a tricky situation here for Montreal after playing, like I said, the Leafs and the Bruins back to back, 2 teams that again get you revved up to play well. And we talked about Montreal had all kinds of defensive issues coming out of the break. They've kind of rectified, and I say kind of because they've been a little bit, one game better defensively, the next game not. That's kind of what we've seen from them. But that Detroit team total, someone mentioning that in the chat, I don't hate that bet at all. honestly. Detroit over 3.5 here, their team total in this game. But yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a tricky spot here for the Canadiens tonight. Next up on the slate, we've got, as we continue along, Pittsburgh, Washington. The old traditional rivalry here with these two teams, Crosby and Ovechkin, that always gets hyped up. Capitals -130, home favorites, 6.5 the total. The difference is Pittsburgh and Washington 5-10 years ago, they were elites. They were, two of the absolute best teams in the NHL. This year they're mediocre and they're fighting for their playoff lives. That's where they're both at right now, the Penguins and the Capitals. So it's lost a little bit of its luster. Don't get me wrong. But I think when you look at this matchup here, still, when you got Crosby on the one side, Ovechkin on the other, forever rivals. They broke into the league at the same time. They've always been battling in the playoffs multiple years. It's still something that you're excited to watch, as a hockey fan. If you look at Washington here, Alex, it's just no consistency whatsoever from this team. In fact, just 4-6 in their last 10 games. They've dropped back-to-back games against Vegas and Colorado. Vegas game they played without Alex Ovechkin. He came back against Colorado in the last game, but they ended up falling short there against the red-hot Colorado Avalanche in that game. A lot of injury concerns on both sides. John Carlson's back on IR. Nick Dowd's still on IR for Washington. And now Tom Wilson, who has just been back for a handful of games, is a game-time decision tonight with a lower body injury. He's been back for 8 games. He suffered that against Colorado the other night, and he left the game in the second period with that lower body injury on Tuesday night's game in Denver. We'll see if he suits up. Hasn't really found his offensive footing since being back, just 2 goals and 1 assist for Wilson in the 8 games since he's been back. So we'll see if he's able to play here in this one. Washington obviously looking to bounce back strong. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, you look at this team off that crazy game against the Florida Panthers that we were watching Tuesday night on the Betcast. That was just insanity, back and forth, in porous defense really both ways, Penguins and Panthers. And Pittsburgh ends up getting the game-winning goal in overtime courtesy of Chris Letang. And what a night it was for Chris Letang. Think about everything he's been through as well, in recent weeks. The passing of his dad, having his team, basically rally around him and help him through that tough time. Absolutely. And the first thing I thought of, too, when Chris Letang and the team around him was you, Alex, because obviously you had a father that you've lost recently, and it's not easy. It's very difficult. And to have the teammates rally around you like that, go to Montreal and be there for Chris Letang. That tells you all you need to know about how they are as a group, tight. Yeah. They are unified. And I think that was absolutely outstanding to see the way they responded. And speaking of responding, Chris Letang responded, obviously, on a Tuesday night with 2 goals, 2 assists. And that was his first game back, with the Penguins as well. So just what a remarkable, magical return to the ice for Letang in that victory against Florida the other night, taking on the Panthers. So, I could, in this kind of game, you've got 2 teams that are just, it's hard to pin both of them down right now. They are up one day, down the next, but it's one of those, if Washington's the dog, I like Washington, but Pittsburgh's the dog here. I lean Pittsburgh a little bit at +110 in this game. I kind of think we'll see goals tonight. I mean, the total here is 6.5, pretty much across the board here. And I think you might see this game get up and over the total. It's had a history of doing so between these 2 teams head to head. The over is cashed in 4 of the last 5 meetings. Pittsburgh, their offense is, I think, capable now with what we're seeing. DeSmith has been, inconsistent. He's going to be the goalie again tonight as Tristan Jarry remains out, and Darcy Kemper will get the start as well for the Capitals here in this game. So it'll be a DeSmith-Kemper matchup. But the over is interesting to me, and from a side perspective, the only thing that I'm concerned about Pittsburgh is the moment I bet them to lose. That's kind of been the way it's been lately for me with backing the Penguins, but I would still prefer the plus number with Pittsburgh than laying it with – I can't lay it with Washington with who's out, with the struggles right now with this team. It would be a lean to Pittsburgh. Probably will pull the trigger on the over here in this one. Alex, Penguins, and Capitals.
Yeah, this could be a close game. I saw Terry in the chat mention about the draw. This isn't one of the draws that I did play, but I would lean toward that. The thing I played here is the first period over. 1.5 lane, $1.40. We've seen this cash in 8 of the last 13 meetings. Like you said, there's been goals scored between these 2 teams. And obviously, we look at the offensive firepower in history of these two teams, and bitter rivals. And of course, everybody always hypes up Crosby versus Ovechkin, but you think about Malkin and think about Backstrom, think about Wilson, think about all the other key components over the years and the playoff series that these two teams have had and different things. So it's always a rivalry that really, and they get up for one another no matter where they are in the standings, no matter what time of year it is. And like I said, with having some of these injury issues and, guys trying to kind of solidify themselves in the lineup position because, with the break coming up, guys are going to start getting healthy. Tom Wilson's probably going to be back full time in the lineup possibly in the next couple of weeks. So you got guys that, trying to battle for spots and stay up with the big club. Same thing with Pittsburgh with all the injury issues that they've had. There's guys that know that, hey, if I can shine and stick around here and be an impact, then I can do that. If not, I'm going to get sent back down to Scranton. So I think we see guys jazzed up for this and that next man up mentality against a division opponent. And I think we're going to see some goals early. So I like the first period over. And if we don't see it come in right away, if we don't see a goal come in right away, maybe grab a little bit at a plus money and try to look for over 5.5 for the full game as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely something to keep in mind. So, you look at this and definitely Pittsburgh might want to tighten up after the Florida game. I just don't know if they're capable of it right now because you got Casey DeSmith in net. You've got obviously blue line concerns big time, even with Letang back, which does help quite a bit. You're still a blue line that's had issues right now, clearly in their own end. I mean, some of the turnovers, and both teams were guilty of it in the Florida-Pittsburgh game, were egregious both ways. Just absolutely terrible in terms of just puck management. And I'm sure something's got to be said by Mike Sullivan. But again, you got to go out there on the ice and enact better puck management, enact better defensive play, enact better structure. And I think when you look at this situation here, you've got Pittsburgh clearly needing to improve on that after what we saw against the Florida Panthers. There are some props of note here in this game. If you look at player props throughout, I'm just looking at the numbers right now with the player props, and you look at it. Crosby, believe it or not, in terms of goals, he's actually picked it up a little bit lately in terms of goal production for this team. Plus 190. To score a goal for him, and he's actually really been picking it up for the Penguins in terms of his own goal-scoring capabilities. You look at the line combinations here for this game. Washington's got some shuffling going on. Sheary, second line. Mantha moving up to the second line could be some value. And TJ Oshie, it looks like, by the way, for Washington. We've talked about how he's kind of been in and out lately, but TJ Oshie is going to be in the lineup tonight and likely on the top line for the Washington Capitals. And we know that when it comes to a TJ Oshie, obviously a better team the Capitals have been, and the record bears that out, that the Washington Capitals are a better team with him on the ice for sure. All right, Zucker, of course. Zucker, Raquel, I don't even have to say it anymore with those two. They're always very much appealing prop options on the Pittsburgh side of the equation, and probably would look in that direction tonight as well. All right, next up, we've got Buffalo and Winnipeg. The Winnipeg Jets minus 180, home favorites, 6.5 the total in this one as the Sabres continue this road trip, and the Jets return home following their own road trip, which is a pretty lengthy one for the Winnipeg Jets. If you go back, they went on the road on January the 17th, is where this road trip started in Montreal, and then they went to Toronto, and then Ottawa, and then Philly, and then Nashville. So a 5-game road trip. They ended up going kind of a disappointing 2-3 on the 5-game road trip. Losses to the Habs, the Leafs, and the Predators. They beat the Senators and the Flyers for their 2 victories, Winnipeg, on that road trip. And if you actually go back further than that, to January the 8th, Winnipeg was home to Vancouver, was on the road for 3 in a row, Detroit, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. Then they were back home for 1 game against Arizona, and then out on the road for 5, and now they're back home again. That's constant travel, 1 game to the next for the Winnipeg Jets since from January 8th until tonight. So that's 18 days where you've been jet setting in between each and every game. That does add up over a course of time. So how energetic will the energy be there? Will the live legs be there? Will the puck management be there? Because sometimes when you're physically and mentally worn down a little bit, and who the fuck wouldn't be after 18 days of travel, do you make mistakes tonight that's going to end up being the concern that I would have for Winnipeg. And they're laying a hefty number here. And I'm going to, I hate to be a broken record here, but we got Buffalo again in this one role that they've been just absolutely spectacular in. Road underdogs against good teams, above average or good teams. And Buffalo has been incredible in this spot. And they've already shown it here on this road trip in the first 2 games. Win over Dallas in overtime, 3-2. Back-to-back on the road, no problem. They beat St. Louis 5-3. Got a little interesting, I think a little too interesting if you're a Sabres fan the other night, because they were up 4-0 in that game. St. Louis made it 4-3 before the Sabres put it away with an empty net goal, but they hung on. They got the win in that game. If you actually look at the meeting these two teams had just recently in Buffalo, January the 12th, Winnipeg got the 4-2 win, but Buffalo was the better hockey team, 41-27 in shots on goal in favor of the Sabres. It was a Hellebuck special in net that night. He was spectacular for the Winnipeg Jets. And now, unfortunately for the Sabres, they're going to have to face Hellebuck again tonight, confirmed starter, as you would have expected. But definitely he is the main reason the Winnipeg Jets won in Buffalo, because Buffalo actually outplayed the Jets that game. I like Buffalo. I'm betting them again. I mean, this has been too strong of an angle. This has been too strong of a trend. This is a Buffalo team that has played their best hockey, A, on the road, B, against above average or better hockey teams. It's been repeated. You want me to rhyme? I'll rhyme it off again in case you weren't here on Tuesday. Buffalo on the road since December. You know who they've beaten on the road and all as road underdogs? Colorado, Vegas, Washington, Boston. Not many teams are winning in Boston right now. Buffalo Sabres did. Buffalo Sabres won in Boston. Buffalo beat Boston, Washington, Colorado, Vegas, Nashville, Dallas the other night, and of course St. Louis as well. And here we go again with Winnipeg. Another upper rung team in the National Hockey League, and Buffalo has consistently gotten the job done here in these kind of situations. The one concern and the one little fear I have is they're putting in a goal he hasn't played in a while. It's Eric Comrie getting the start here for the Sabres tonight. Yeah. And, he hasn't played since early January, and it was a game against Seattle. I think he gave up 4 goals. His numbers are decent. They're not great. But if there's anything that's going to stoke and get a just outstanding effort out of him, it's facing his old team. Winnipeg Jets was with that franchise, of course, for a couple of years. So, Eric, and I don't care who you are or what your numbers are, you want to go in there and you want to beat a team you used to play for. Simple as that. And I think, and Eric Comrie has had good games. He has. They've been sporadic. They've been not always game-to-game consistency with him, which you get with a lot of young goalies. But he's capable for one night in a team that'll really bring out, I think, the best in him possibly to play a really solid game in net for this Buffalo Sabres team. So, yeah, for me, live road underdog here once again with Buffalo plus 160. Alex, Sabres and Jets.
Yeah, it's a pass for me, but I definitely it makes sense. So backing Buffalo, like I said, this has been a spot where they've cashed in left and right. You mentioned Eric Comrie getting the start, and it's kind of I guess you could say double revenge spot, because this isn't the first time he's played against Winnipeg. But when you look at the one start he had against the Jets, it was brutal. Gave up 5 goals in a losing effort, and so with that on top of the fact that he hasn't played in a while. Pretty sure he knows that, hey, there's a possibility he can get moved or that his job's in question, because, UPL's certainly closer in getting ready to being a full-time member of the Sabres. We're not going to see him shuttling back and forth between Rochester much longer. And, of course, Craig Anderson getting older, just coming off of playing his 700th career game. So he knows that he's battling for either a spot there in Buffalo or potentially a spot somewhere else. So all that combined together, I think that backs for a solid spot. So I like some other spots more on the board, but Buffalo at a plus price, it definitely makes sense here. And like this could be one of those spots where Winnipeg kind of just plays a little softer. Maybe not as geared up in the first 20 minutes. Buffalo takes the lead, and we know with that offense, if you give them a lead, they can pile on against anybody.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be interesting to see how he fares here in this one. It is a risk. I mean, there's a risk in every bet you make, but that's the primary risk here is, are you going to get the goaltending of Eric Comrie up to par here tonight in this game? But I'll tell you what, the price is excellent. This is not exactly a great spot for the Winnipeg Jets here. And look, the Winnipeg Jets, 2-3 on that road trip. It's going to be interesting to see. Again, when you've had that long of a time, again, they've gone from January 28th to January 26th with travel in between every single game. It's a lot of miles. That's a lot of miles. That's a lot of travel in between each game, nonstop for 18 straight days. That's a little bit tricky. We'll see if Winnipeg, though, can overcome that here tonight against this surging Buffalo Sabres team that's actually played, again, better on the road lately than they have played at home. I'm just looking for just a couple of the numbers on some of these in terms of long-term here with the Jets. In terms of can I find anything in terms of their track record when they've been on a long road trip? Let me just see. I don't see anything specifically, but yeah, it is concerning because a lot of times too, when you've been on the road for this long, it can catch up to you that first game back home. We'll see if it does for the Jets tonight. As far as the props go, there are a couple. This actually is a game where I probably would look toward the over a little bit, honestly. 6.5. I don't love the total as much as the side, but I would lean that way. It's probably not a bad game to investigate the possibility of some props here in this one. Obviously, Dylan Cousins, I've talked ad nauseum about him. He ends up scoring the empty netter the other night against the St. Louis Blues. He's got 3 goals and 3 points in the last 4 games. It's almost automatic now because the pricing for him is just so much better than, say, Thompson, Tuck, and Skinner and others on this Sabres team. So he's always the more undervalued, under the radar option in terms of value on the player prop market. On the Winnipeg side of the equation, obviously we've talked about Dubois. The shots on goal props with him have been just incredible. They just seem to cash in automatically. Kyle Connor's been excellent. Nikolai Ehlers is starting to get his form back together. Cole Perfetti's going to get more opportunities now that he still remains in a top 6 forward role. So all of those remain decent prop options here in this game for the Jets as well. I'm just looking actually at, you're right, some of the shots on goal numbers. And yes, Dubois, it's been an incredible run for him in terms of his shots on goal numbers going over. So definitely something you want to keep in mind here tonight for this game. All right, we got New Jersey, Nashville. New Jersey minus 130, road favorites, 6 being the total in this one. Devils and Predators. The Devils, boy, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat against the Vegas Golden Knights on Tuesday. They were trailing 2-1 late, and it's Dougie Hamilton putting on his cape and coming to the rescue, getting the tying goal in the final minute, and then after that, getting the overtime winner 3-2 against the Vegas Golden Knights. That's now 4 straight games beyond regulation time for this New Jersey Devils team. So keep that in mind. They have played either overtime or a shootout in 4 straight games entering tonight against Nashville, who got a 2-1 victory in their last game against the Winnipeg Jets. They have now won 4 of their last 5 games. They've been very good at home, 4 straight home wins for the Predators coming into tonight. We'll see if they can stretch that home win streak to 5 here against New Jersey. Keep in mind, these teams met back in December in Jersey, a 4-3 overtime win for Nashville. That game also went beyond regulation. So you've got all the elements of maybe a draw bet here, potentially, with the Devils and the Predators. I certainly think we could see it. It's going to be probably a close game. It's a tight game. That's the one thing about New Jersey lately. Yes, they've gotten their game back on track. They've found ways to win. They're on the right side of the positive run again. They had a brutal stretch in December. They've gotten their game back on track, and now they have gone 7-1 rather in their last 8 games. But a lot of these games have been pretty tight. And like I said, 4 straight have gone to overtime or a shootout. So I think the draw is worth a look here tonight in this game. I actually lean New Jersey. If I were to bet money line, I'd take the Devils before I take the Predators here. I think the Devils in a decent spot. Saros has obviously been very good, but I think the Devils here are playing some good hockey. And let's be honest with Nashville here. Caught Winnipeg at the end of a trip. LA's, up and down of late. They play Columbus as well. Some of these wins. Calgary was a win where they got outplayed, but Saros was terrific, and that's the fear here. But if I were to bet the money line, I'd look New Jersey minus 130, but I think the best look here is maybe the draw, because I think it's probably going to end up being a real tight game. 4 straight beyond regulation for Jersey. The previous meeting with the Preds and Devils in Jersey in December went to overtime, so all the things point toward a tight, competitive, maybe game, and a game maybe that requires more than 60 minutes. What do you think here, Alex? New Jersey, Nashville.
Well, if you're looking at the draw, that means I'm on the draw. I've already bet that at plus 320.
Yeah,
That was only last time.
if it's ringing an alarm bell, the draw in my mind, it's got to be cranking in yours. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, that was one of the first things that I jumped all over. I mean, and like I said, 5 of the last 8 meetings between these two teams, I was on it in the previous meeting as well. But that's a hell of a run with New Jersey. 4 straight, and that wears down on you too. That's something to look at moving forward. We talk about, I joked around earlier. The draw season's approaching. We've seen all these overtime games the last couple of nights, and of course, as we get into the second half of the season, and everybody's battling for points positioning in the standings. Teams are going to, settle up and take that draw, go to OT, go to a shootout. And you want to keep an eye on teams that play 3 games in a row, 4 games in a row, 3 out of 5 going to OT or a shootout, because that's added time. That extra 20, 30 minutes doesn't mean anything as far as in the, game aspect. But then, okay, now you leave the arena, a little later. You fly home a little later. You fly to your next destination a little. You get in your hotel a little later. Those things can add up when you start talking about that over 2, 3, 4 games. And so that's the thing to look at. So if I had to look at a money line side, I'd probably actually even side with Nashville at plus 110 potentially, because that's something that just want to keep an eye on. We want to see how New Jersey's legs are looking in the second and third periods, whether this is a close game or not. So those are things to keep an eye on when you're betting these overtimes. Not so much, of course, we want the game to go to OT, but look at how a team's form is doing when they're going into overtime, multiple games over a certain stretch.
No question. And definitely, and you're right about it. But all you need to do is watch our Betcast Tuesday night to talk to Alex's point about games are tighter now. We're seeing more overtime games, more shootout games. I mean, we saw multiple overtime games in that 7 p.m. window on Tuesday night. And it could have been even more than that if Montreal-Boston hung in there for overtime as well, and a couple of those other games. Minnesota-Tampa was flirting with overtime there. That was a 1-goal game before Tampa Bay put it away with the empty net goal. So this is the time of year, approaching the All-Star break and even coming out of the All-Star break, the games get more important. And teams, especially when it's East versus, and this is East versus West. New Jersey doesn't give 2 shits if Nashville gets a point if this game goes to overtime. Nashville doesn't give 2 shits if New Jersey gets a point if this game goes to overtime. They're in their own battles, not against each other. So, it makes it even more possible that, hey, we get 2-2 here late in the third. Nobody's going to try to be stupid, make that brain fart dumb mistake in their own end, and they want to protect that 1 point at least and then go in overtime for it.
And a thing to look at, too, from a live betting standpoint, we talked about this on that betcast, is when you're seeing those games or teams, they're playing, 2-2, 3-3 late, jump in and grab that no goal in regulation, once you see that tie, and, you get yourself an extra plus 200, plus 250. Maybe you didn't bet the draw pregame, but you can still find some decent value late. If you jump in, it's not going to be as big, but that adds up. You still get plus 150 to plus 180, plus 200. Seeing 2 teams playing tight late in the third period, and they just want to get the points. No one wants to get out of there with 0 points. So that's another way to kind of attack the draw method moving forward in the second half of the season.
Yeah, no question. Definitely some good advice there on how to approach that for sure. As far as, props for New Jersey, Nashville, I mean, for New Jersey, it seems to be Dougie Hamilton. I mean, you got to look in his direction right now. He's just feeling it from the blue line, whether it's point prop, assist prop, power play points. Get power play points props on Dougie Hamilton. He's a power play dynamo right now. Why bet Dougie Hamilton point when you can get power play point and get a nice plus price with that? Especially when so much of his damage has been done with the man advantage lately for the New Jersey Devils. So great advice there. Brat Hughes, the usual suspects. They've been stepping up, of course, for the Devils during this great run. For Nashville, I keep going back to, some of the players that just continue to be rock steady for them in terms of production. Cody Glass has been just very good, taking advantage of the top line center spot that he's been at. He's gotten a goal in 2 of the last 4 games and 4 points during those games as well. So Cody Glass right now for Nashville. Cody Glass repair, Cody Glass replace. Every time I hear that name, it reminds me of that commercial. But Cody Glass for the Predators on the top line center spot. And what's funny about Glass doing good things from that top line is that Philip Forsberg has been really strong, and even Ryan Johansson here for the Predators here. He got a goal and an assist against LA from the second line spot. Forsberg's been a point machine lately for the Predators too. There's been some nice chemistry going. Duchesne got 2 goals against LA on that top line as well. So obviously John Hines has found something there with Cody Glass in between Duchesne and Forsberg on that top line for the Nashville Predators. Goaltending, we expect it to be, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Vanacek and Saros. Saros is projected and likely for Nashville. We don't have confirmation yet for New Jersey, but probably expect Vanacek once again. They've been rolling with him, as they should. He's better than Blackwood. I've said this a million times. All right, great stuff. That's the first part of the Thursday card. 200 live viewers right now on YouTube. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Hit the like button, and thanks to our podcast listeners for tuning in to the Ice Guys show as well. We'll be back with the back half of the Thursday NHL card right after we hear from our first of our 2 sponsors, Gramco.
All right. Whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta 8 products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta 8 products such as vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you, and is also available at many American retailers as well. Get the best Delta 8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. If you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code ICEGUYS, you get 25% off of any order, and all orders on the site that are $50 and higher are shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta 8 products today.
All right, we're back here on the Ice Guys show. We've got 4 games left here to tackle on this Thursday slate. We will continue on now and move to Philadelphia and Minnesota. We've got the Minnesota Wild minus 230, home favorites, 6 the total in this game. I mean, this is for Minnesota. They did not end that road trip very well. They lose 3 straight to end the roadie against Carolina, Florida, and Tampa Bay. Now, that's not an easy trifecta. Obviously, it goes without saying. Even Florida is not, an easy team, even though they've had their struggles. And certainly you're talking Carolina and Tampa Bay. You're talking 2 of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. So the schedule's been tough. And that is that we always say that trifecta on the road is difficult. But still, if you're Minnesota, wouldn't you like to at least win one of those? Or at least you think you can, let's at least get one of those. The fact they didn't win any of them, disappointing. They did get outplayed, I thought, by Tampa Bay. In that one, as that game went along. They actually started very well, but Tampa Bay really started to pick it up as that game went on. We'll see if they bounce back here from this 3-game losing streak now back home as they host the Philadelphia Flyers. Certainly you would think it's time for Minnesota, right, to bounce back, but I don't want to lay this kind of number with them against what's still a very hard-trying, feisty Philadelphia Flyers team that doesn't, when they lose lately, the Boston game was a beatdown 6-0, but their other losses, Winnipeg was a competitive loss for them. It took a late goal for Winnipeg into the empty net to put it away. The LA game was back and forth. They lose in overtime 4-3. They also have wins against Detroit, Anaheim, Washington twice. They beat Washington twice. They beat Buffalo. So, John Tortorella keeps getting decent effort from this team. And right now, the Minnesota Wild, and I'm kind of in that camp where the team that's losing 3 in a row if they get outworked, they can lose this game because the Flyers have done that in the past this season, where their work ethic is good enough to take advantage, of a team that is either struggling or not able to match them work ethic wise. We know Minnesota talent wise is much better than Philly. They're in a lot of areas. There's no doubt about that. But when you've come off the road trip that Minnesota's come off, where your confidence has been shaken a little bit, where you've been traveling for quite a bit as well. It was a 4-game road trip. They're out on the road for 10 days or so. It's not exactly, let's go out there now and let's lay, minus 230 with you in your first game coming off a road trip like this. So very, very fascinating to see how this one plays out here. Could Philadelphia, I think Philadelphia in the first period is honestly kind of appealing to me, because I think they could jump early on Minnie, and then maybe it takes Minnesota a little bit of time to get their traction playing at home following this road trip. So I think Philadelphia could hang around in this game. I certainly lean to the plus 190, but I think the first period, I might zone in more on that in this game. The Flyers in the opening period here tonight against the Minnesota Wild, just catching Minnesota in that first game back. And the one thing about the Philadelphia Flyers is, and we saw this too against LA, they had a nice start, and their first periods lately haven't been that bad for the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm just looking at their recent games going into tonight, and if you actually look, even in the games they've lost of late, like the LA game, I'm just looking at that, it was 4-3, but it was 2-2 after the first. They were competitive. Philly, Winnipeg, it was 5-3 Winnipeg. Winnipeg did start strong there, but there's been examples here where Philadelphia's had some decent first period efforts, might be able to jump on those Minnesota Wild early in the game coming off that road stretch. So if I were to look at anything here, it would be Philly here in the plus number in the first period alone. What do you think here in this one, Alex? Flyers and Wild.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get to the window with this game, but like I said, it would be either Philly first period or Philly team total over 2.5 at even money. I know Melissa mentioned that in the chat. Like I said, this is, with Flower and net, he's been kind of shaky. This, a Wild team that in these 3 losses, they've given up goals in bunches. And like I said, Philly not known for just hammering it on offensively, but they, it's not asking them a lot to get 3, especially if they can jump out early to a lead. So those would be the 2 ways I would look at this game. Like I said, Wild at home shouldn't be laying 230 to really much of anybody. We've seen them play, some bad teams like Arizona and Anaheim and have to go to overtime to beat those teams. So maybe this is one even, maybe take a shot with a draw here. You can probably get a draw price somewhere in the 450 or higher range. So that wouldn't shock me one bit. This is, kind of just one of those spots. And like I said, the dog days of the year, in the middle of the year, you see these big dogs come in. We saw it last night with Columbus, and you see some of these teams that usually do play well at home. They don't, win every single game at home. The Wild aren't the Boston Bruins. So, I would, lean toward Philly first period, lean toward their team total over. It's cold as hell here. It's an ESPN Plus game. So, the crowd might be, hit and miss there. It just has that feeling to me like this could be one of those games where the Wild get caught up and Flyers win this one 3-2. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, and it's been, you're right. Just recently, I'm looking at the, and look, the defensive play has been a little bit of an issue too for Minnesota. We can't just say it's been all Marc-Andre Fleury. Like the penalty kills got to get better for Minnesota. They gave up 4 power play goals the last 3 games of that road trip. You know what's funny? Their power play has been good, but their penalty kill has struggled. That could be something to monitor here in this game. And you see the Flyers as well. Their power play is actually connected in 2 of the last 3 games. So could this be an over? I'd lean over, honestly, with the 6 here in this game as well, as far as the total is concerned. I think probably will add a small play on the over. And like I said, that first period look on the Flyers in this one. Carter Hart in net for the Flyers. And like I said, with Fleury in net for the Wild, his last 5 starts, he's just 1-4. In his last 5 starts going back to January 7th against Buffalo, giving up 6 to Buffalo, 3 to the Rangers. He gave up 1. He did have a good start against Arizona, gave up just the 1 goal there. The 5 spot he allowed to Carolina, 3 plus the empty netter, of course, against Tampa. So, 1-4 in his last 5 starts for Marc-Andre Fleury. So you're right. It just seems with him in net, with this team in general, kind of not playing their absolute best right now. Coming off a road trip, which is never an easy bet on spot, minus 230 seems like a dangerous proposition if you're going to take Minnesota tonight. Win or lose, it is. I think you're going to be sweating this one out possibly for the 60 minutes. All right, Chicago and Calgary. The Calgary Flames minus 410, home favorites, 6 the total here in this one. Was that a sign of Chicago against Vancouver? Because you've got to play absolutely pathetic, really bad, to be absolutely dominated by the Vancouver Canucks the way Chicago was the other night. I mean, what were the shots? 40-10 at one time in that game. Maybe finally it came to the point where Chicago says, okay, we got to stop winning a little bit here. I know the management thinks that. It's funny. They talked about the tanking topic on the Sportsnet broadcast last night with Jamal Mayers and a couple players, Anthony Stewart, a couple in the studio. And they said the players and the coaches don't tank. They don't want to tank. It's management. It's the upper management. It's the front office that wants to tank. The players and the coaches really don't want to. Players are like, hey, why would I tank? This guy that you might want to draft might come after my job, might take it. Why would I want to tank and risk that? So it's more of a, I think front office thing than it is a coaching and a player thing in terms of, are we going to tank? Are we going to tank? It is worth noting the Blackhawks are going to turn to Jackson Stauber in net, the son of Rob Stauber. Anyone that's old enough like me knows Rob Stauber back in the day, journeyman backup goalie, for much of his NHL career. And his son Jackson now, who I actually cashed a ticket with in his NHL debut on the weekend. I took Chicago at that big price at St. Louis on Saturday night, and he was very solid in net, Stauber, in that game. And the Blues took advantage of the Blackhawks rather took advantage of a Blues team that has had issues lately defensively, that has given up a lot of goals. Binnington is in one of those runs again where he's struggling again in net. Chicago certainly took advantage of that Saturday night against the Blues in that victory that Stauber was in net. Of course, against Vancouver, it was Mrazek, who actually I thought in the first period was very good, did everything he could to hold the Blackhawks in it, and then the floodgates opened later as that game went on. It'll be interesting to see how Stauber fares. Now, this is his second start in the NHL. Is there's going to be more of a book out on him? Certainly more of a knowledge base, if you will, for the Calgary Flames, where to attack, where the weaknesses might be. That is something worth noting. And for Calgary, this is one of those spots where you have to gauge. They're expected to win this game. They should win this game. They're at home. They're laying -400. Do they have the focus needed to get the job done and maybe get it done decisively? Because I think in this case they will, be focused on the Blackhawks, because they lost to them just recently, 4-3 in the Windy City. Earlier this month, there was a 4-3 Blackhawks victory over the Calgary Flames. And, that was back when Calgary was just very, very frustrating and obviously having tough times, having struggles. We'll see if they fare better this time around against Chicago. I love what I'm seeing from Calgary's game the last 2 or 3 games, especially the last 2 on home ice. The Tampa Bay win and the Columbus win in the Johnny Gaudreau Bowl the other night, they were dominant. In fact, if not for Korpisalo, Calgary would have won that game 8-3 against Columbus. But they were dominant in that game. They were dominant against Tampa Bay. This is the Calgary team I want to see more often. This is the Calgary team I think they're capable of being, where you're starting to get them. Dubé's starting to go. Mangiapane is starting to go. You got Coleman, chipping in offensively. Kadri is, back on track again. Wait till Huberdeau gets going. We haven't even fully gotten Huberdeau going yet in Calgary. Wait till that happens. This still could be a team that makes a run, gets in the playoff spot. Don't even count them out winning the division still if they get red hot. They've got that potential in them. The problem tonight going into this game is that the reason they've won some of these games and they've looked so great is because they've gotten saves from the guy that's been in net the last 2 games, who is not the guy that's in net tonight. And that's, of course, Dan Darth Vladar. The last 2 games got the start against Tampa, got the start against Columbus. Well, Daryl Sutter says, you know what? Vladar's been getting it done, but we can't have Jacob Markstrom sitting cold and not starting for a week or 2. We've got to get him in there at some point. And this is the front end of a back-to-back for the Calgary Flames, because they're in Seattle against the Kraken tomorrow night. So they figured this is the time we're going to put Markstrom in, and your guess is as good as mine on what he's going to do, Markstrom in net tonight. It is, because let's not forget that 4-3 game earlier this month that Chicago beat Calgary 4-3 in overtime. We saw Markstrom in that game. He got pulled after 3 goals. Vladar had to come in. And it was an ugly start to that game in Chicago for Jacob Markstrom. So I prefer the over more than the side here. I definitely like this game over the total. I think you'll see goals. Chicago, I think, is going to have trouble containing Calgary, who have exploded offensively for 10 goals in the first 2 games of this homestand. Don't count out Chicago, though, finding the back of the net, especially with my concerns and my question marks about whether Markstrom's going to bounce back and look more like the Jacob Markstrom that the Flames were expecting when they signed him, a couple of years ago from Vancouver. And, of course, it doesn't hurt that 5 straight meetings have gone over the total here between the Flames and the Blackhawks. So I love this over. It's one of my favorite plays on the board tonight. But I think in terms of the side, I think Calgary's going to be focused this time around for Chicago. The problem is, where do you find the value here in order to bet them? Even the first period puck line is even money. The full game puck line is -1.5 at -160, I believe, here in this game. So you're really not getting much of a bargain here if you're going to back the Flames. And team total is way up there as well. So it's tricky. There's no bargain at all on backing Calgary. You could get it down to team total over 4 at BetMGM, which is usually what I do with these big favorites. You could consider that. Might sprinkle on that, but probably going to end up just sticking with this over 6 in the end. Calgary will probably do the brunt of the work, but I think Chicago against a guy that's trying to get his confidence back, Markstrom, could still chip in and find the back of the net. Alex, what do you think here? Blackhawks, Flames.
Yeah, this is going to be an issue, trying to look for spots against the Hawks moving forward. I think, the run of fun's over. They're going to start tanking, and we're going to start seeing them lose in bunches again, especially after the All-Star break. And we're going to have these prices. You're going to have these minus 400s. You're going to have these 4.5 team totals, these, like I said, laying prices for puck lines, and you're not going to be able to get any value back in the side against them. So you have to look for other ways, and the total here is great. 6, and even the first period, I got the first period over 1.5, laying $1.35. We've seen it move up to 45, which isn't too bad. I still like it at that price because, like I said, Markstrom's in net. We know how he's struggled. He struggled early in games as well. Same thing with that Chicago game. It was the first shot on goal. The first shot on goal he made a save. Second and third were the ones that went past him. So this definitely has that feeling, especially with Jackson Stauber, second start in net. Get a little bit more tape on him, see what he can do. I think this Calgary team, like I said, they're getting things rolling back the way they want to. They should be able to name their score here. So let's just go with the total. That's the best way to find the value. You got a 6, laying $1.10. So I'm going first period over and full game over.
Don't we have our answer, by the way, now that Daryl Sutter is kind of thinking that Dan Vladar is his guy right now? Because he's saving Dan Vladar for the Seattle game tomorrow night, and that's obviously the bigger game, the better opponent. That's a surefire sign that we're seeing a changing of the guard, and that at least for the time being, Dan Vladar is 1A, right? Well, I think it's still 1A, 1B. It's not clear-cut number 1 Vladar, but he is 1A. Markstrom ain't 1A right now.
I think it's twofold. I think it's more of, Vladar's playing better, so give him the start against a better team. But also, I think this is give Markstrom the start against the weaker team. Let him build his confidence back up. Yeah. So I agree with you. Yeah, Vladar's definitely the 1A, and Markstrom's the 1B right now. But this is the perfect lineup for what you want to do with these goals, especially, like I said, heading into the lengthy break. Have your top guy play the top teams. Have your secondary guy play against a weaker opponent and build some confidence. Take that into the second half, and then they can still keep this 1A, 1B tandem, but hopefully you can get Markstrom, like I said, closer to what he was last year and in previous years. And then if you've got both of these guys rocking and rolling, you're in great shape for the second half run.
Yeah, no question. Prop-wise for Calgary, the players that I'm targeting right now because they're stepping up big time. Mangiapane's stepping up. He's getting his game back together again, and so is Dubé right now. We've been waiting on it. He's on the top line. They're asking a lot of him this year, and he's warming to the task on this homestand. 2 goals and 3 points in the last 2 games for Dylan Dubé of the Calgary Flames. So him and Mangiapane, the 2 guys that were really expected to step up their game, elevate their game, and help this Calgary team after losing the likes of Gaudreau and Tkachuk from last year's team, and they're finally starting to play like it right now for the Calgary Flames. You know what? I'm just seeing at Pinnacle, Calgary and over 5.5, the combo, minus 102. That's pretty good. I'll probably put that in my pocket as well. Flames and over 5.5, minus 102.
See what that is. I know BetMGM has that too. I'll check and see what the price of that is over there.
Yeah. It'll probably be not quite as good because Pinnacle, the reduced juice shop, it's usually tough to beat those prices that you get there, but I'm sure it'll be something like minus 110, minus 120. I don't think it'll be much more than that, even at BetMGM. So that's the way you can go about it. That's the way you have to go about it. Like if you're ever going to put money on a minus $3, $4 or $3-4 favorite, you got to look at the combo in some form, either combined with either the over or the under.
Yeah, great call. Minus $1.10 at MGM with that Calgary over 5.5.
Yeah, there you go. Calgary and over 5.5. That's another way you could go about it here. If you want to somehow, some way get on the Flames here in this game. And also, of course, you get the 5.5 with the total instead of 6, which might also help you as well. All right, St. Louis, Arizona. We've got the Blues minus 150, road favorite, 6.5 the total. In this one, the Coyotes, I mean, that's about as listless as I've ever seen them play, especially at home the other night. I mean, the Mullet Arena, home ice is where we've actually seen the Coyotes bring some solid performances. They've beaten actually some quality foes earlier this season at home, beat Toronto and Boston, among others, on this home ice, but they were just completely lethargic against Anaheim. They lose 5-2. They've now gone just 2-8 in their last 10 games. And all of a sudden, this home ice not nearly as sharp as it's been earlier during the run. If you'll actually look, Arizona in their last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 home games, just 2-5 in their last 7 home games, the Coyotes. So their home ice has kind of cooled off a little bit here in this game. I think from a spot perspective, spot screams St. Louis. Berube was livid about the effort at the start to the game against the Buffalo Sabres. You could see him doing a slow burn on the bench when they fell behind, in the blink of an eye against the Buffalo Sabres on that Tuesday night. That game was 3-0 before we could even get halfway through the first period. And of course, they did battle back and they did wake up later in the game and play a little bit better. But again, very hard in the NHL to spot a team three goals like they did Buffalo and expect to win the hockey game. So you would think this is going to be a spot where you're going to get St. Louis fully ready to go against Arizona. But I'm telling you what, their level of play does concern you. They had the win against Nashville. They beat Ottawa barely by a score of 2-1. But it has been a rough go for the Blues, just 2-4 in their last 6 games. And even the last time they made the trip to Arizona was last year, and it was barely a victory for St. Louis, 5-4 overtime win for them over the Arizona Coyotes when they made the trip to the desert last year to play this Coyotes team. And in fact, they also only Arizona beat St. Louis in St. Louis last year, 3-2. So 2 of those games, Arizona's right in it. So I don't know. I kind of want to take St. Louis here a little bit in this game in some form. I don't the regulation. I think the first period is kind of like the Philly game, where I don't trust the Flyers to win for the full game, and even against Arizona, I don't fully trust the Blues to win for the win the game, and I don't trust them fully to put my money on them for the full game. But I think early in the game, first period, with the poor start they had against the Buffalo Sabres Tuesday night at home, I think the first period angle makes some sense here with the St. Louis Blues. And if you like them in the first period here tonight, you can get them -0.5, +155 or +160. It's a pretty good price, pretty solid number. They know the first 20 minutes is what completely ruin their chances of winning against Buffalo on Tuesday night. So that's what I'm going to rock with, and that's it. Only that. Blues first period puck line here, -0.5, +160. And for the love of God, if it is Binnington and net tonight, no, it won't be. It'll be Thomas Greiss, it looks like, thank goodness. He needs to park his ass on the bench for a game or two. His goaltending against Chicago and Buffalo was horrible. He's back to the struggles again for Jordan Binnington in those 2 games. So this is good by Berube. Get Greiss in there. Greiss hasn't been as bad lately, believe it or not, as he was earlier in the season. He's had some decent games here the last month or two. So, yeah, Blues in the first period puck line for me, -0.5, +160. What do you think here, Alex? Blues, Coyotes?
Yeah, I'm just going to go with the first period over. We've seen this cash in 4 of the last 5 Blues games. We've all seen it cash in 5 of the last 7 meetings between these 2 teams, St. Louis and Arizona. They've always seemed, whenever they play each other, and going back to when they had that time splitting in the same division in the short season, they always got off to hot starts, and they always seemed to be really physical. We always saw a lot of power play chances with these 2 teams for whatever reason. So it could be one of those things where, like I said, with St. Louis, the way that they came out in the first period last game, I think they might want to come out with a little bit of energy, a little pep in their step, and I think we could maybe see them throw the body around. It could get a little physical, and maybe we see some quality power play chances for both teams early in the contest. So I like I'm seeing over 2. Seeing the over 1.5 at $1.50. This is when I'll probably just wait and grab a better price. I'm looking for something $1.30 or cheaper live in game. I'm not going to go with an over 2. Over 2 is not bad, but I just feel we can wait and get a better number and better price in game. So that's the way I'm going to attack this.
Yeah, Vladimir Tarasenko, he came back the last game for the Blues, and of course, actually should be more comfortable now that he's got his second game now, since returning, which should help the Blues here in this game tonight. If you look at the props, though, again, Thomas and Kyrou, on the top line, certainly are players that you want to target. Kyrou has scored in 3 straight games and 4 points for the Blues during that stretch. Robert Thomas has been really good of late as well, centering that top line for St. Louis. And even the third member, the veteran member of that line, Brandon Saad, since he's been up there, he's been effective for St. Louis. So anybody on that top line, definitely could be someone you look at for player props tonight. On the Arizona side of things, Schmaltz, of course, is, if you're going to trust anybody to chip in, Schmaltz is one, no doubt. Actually, Barrett Hayton has started to get some offense going lately. Bukestad's been on an uptick. And the 19-year-old Dylan Guenther is someone we've talked about a lot. Scored a game winner for Canada at the World Juniors, come back to the big club here with Arizona after his time away, and he has scored 2 goals in the last 5 games for the Coyotes. So always a consideration, worth a look there is Dylan Guenther. He's making an impact and at least getting chances, it seems, on a nightly basis. If you're watching those Arizona games, you can tell. He's all over the ice, and he's noticeable on a nightly basis. Anaheim and Colorado, final game of this Thursday card. We've got Colorado minus 400. Here we go again. Minus 400 home favorite, 6.5 the total. If you ask me who's got a better chance, tonight, Anaheim or Chicago, I'd say probably neither, honestly. But if I had to pick one, I'd say probably Chicago has a little better chance to beat Calgary than Anaheim does. Like Colorado looks like they're on a mission right now. They're on a mission to get back in a playoff spot. Ever since they had the team meeting with the players after the loss in Chicago, which was a couple of weeks ago, this team hasn't lost since then. It's almost like they needed that. It was therapeutic. It was, hey, we're defending Stanley Cup champs. We need to get our shit together because we may not even make the playoffs if we keep playing like this. I think it was probably something along those lines, and they've been a very good team ever since. 6 straight wins for Colorado, home against Ottawa and Detroit. They went on the road. They swept that road trip, Calgary, Vancouver, and Seattle. 2 of those wins, very good. I like their game against Washington, coming back from that trip, maybe a little bit of a tricky spot. Washington had played them tough in Denver, and the Avalanche still get the job done, 3-2 in that game. This definitely has the feel of a Colorado and over 5.5 type of spot in this game. I'll throw 4 head-to-head meetings in a row in Denver between these 2 teams at you. Ducks and Avalanche. Scores were 8-4, 5-2, 5-2, and 4-2. So we had 3 overs, and then we had a game that had 6 goals, and it ended up pushing on the total, which was 6 in that game. So I could only look over 6.5 here as far as the total goes. And I forgot to mention this. The 2 straight meetings with Arizona St. Louis have gone over in the desert. So I'd probably lean full game over with that Blues Coyotes game as well. But this one, same thing. But that Colorado and over 5.5 might be even better to look at the combo bet here in this game, because Colorado has not had those sleepwalk incidents against the Anaheim Ducks here in Denver at Ball Arena. They've gotten the job done. 8-4, 5-2, 5-2, 4-2. All victories, all by margin as well for the Colorado Avalanche. Their last 4 games when hosting the Anaheim Ducks. So this to me looks like a good situation. By the way, someone who is with us on the Betcast, and he's mentioned this bet, it makes sense, especially you got to get creative. Colorado and over 5.5 is one of the ways you can get creative here. Dumb the price down. Nobody in their right mind should want to lay minus 400 with anybody, especially in this league, in this sport. Yeah, so that, Colorado could lose. It's, upsets can happen every now and then for sure. But why would you want to, bet Colorado at minus 410, risk losing that? Where if Colorado loses and you bet them, say, Colorado and over 5.5 at plus 104, and you're losing a plus 104 bet instead of a minus 410 bet. It's a huge difference, obviously, and it's going to spare your bankroll in the long run. So, yeah, that Colorado and over 5.5 at plus 104 looks like a good option to me here in this game. But Christian Sorensen, again, who was on our Betcast the other night, says Avs race to 4. And that is a popular bet. A lot of books offer it, the race to 4 goals. That's minus 150, which, again, it's not the greatest price, but compare it to minus 400 on the money line, it sure as hell is. It sure as hell is a lot better than that. So that's another way you can go about it if you like the Avs in some form in this game. The race to 4 at minus 150, which is still a lot better than minus 400 on them in this game. As far as the goaltending is concerned here, Gibson confirmed for the Anaheim Ducks in this one, and Pavel Francouz will get the start in goal for the Colorado Avalanche in this game, and he's actually really played well. 3 starts for Francouz, 1.3 goals against, 953 save percentage for Francouz in the last 3 starts. We'll see if he carries over that recent success here in this game. Gibson has given up 6 or more goals, by the way, in 4 of his last 6 starts. Not good, obviously, for the veteran John Gibson. So, again, for me, I would lean over 6.5. I'll have a small play on that. Primary play for me here is the Avs and over 5.5 at a slight plus price 104, plus 104 with that. Alex, Ducks, Avalanche.
Yeah, this is one I'm gonna pass, like you said. And when you're looking at these big, the big favorites, Colorado or Calgary and Chicago, it's a better game in my opinion than this one. This feels like it could just be like the Colorado just running away with it. So Avs in that over, that makes total sense. But like I said, there's other spots I like on the board. I don't want to just litter it with everything. If I had to play something, it would be that, and that's like literally the only thing I could look at, because just looking at some of the other options, like I said, erase the 4 goals, land $1.50 with that. That's a bit tricky because yes, Anaheim is giving up goals in bunches, but Colorado playing at home, they can also just shut this thing down and win it 3-0. So, laying that kind of a price with a bit of a dicey, that could be dicey if Anaheim just doesn't show up at all. And Colorado can just, kind of cruise to a win. So this is not worth it. I'm just mostly going to be a pass for me.
All right, there we go. Good stuff indeed. Passing here is Alex in this one. Nichushkin out, but they get Cale Makar back. So it's like a trade-off, right? And actually, to be honest, Nichushkin's great. Yeah, Makar is more valuable than Nichushkin. So it's actually it's a plus for the Avs. Like if it was the opposite, you lose Makar, you get Nichushkin. Not as good as you lose Nichushkin, you get Makar back. So Cale Makar's back, and even though Val Nichushkin got injured against Washington and won't play tonight, getting Cale Makar back, obviously huge for that blue line for the Colorado Avalanche. If you really want to dive in for maybe a bargain bet here, Pinnacle's got Colorado first period team total over 1.5 at plus 180. Plus 180 for Avalanche. Can they score 2 goals in the first period against this Anaheim team at home? I think they're capable of it. That's not a bad consideration there. Again, you don't have to put big amounts of money in play with something like that, but I think it's something to consider in a game like this. That plus 180 for Colorado to score 2 goals at home in the first period against one of the worst defensive teams in the league, is not a bad consideration, especially when we've seen them they've really, really, buried this Anaheim team and just lit them up offensively in some of these recent games in Colorado. I mean, 4 goals the last meeting, and then 5, 5, and 8 goals scored for Colorado in the 3 meetings before that hosting Anaheim. So they've really done damage offensively hosting the Ducks. We'll see if that carries over to tonight. Great stuff. Alex, great job. I know powering through it when you're a little less than 100%. So great work there. Great card on this Thursday slate. 9 games, a lot of good opportunities. We appreciate everybody joining us on YouTube Live. Hit the like button. Make sure you sign up and subscribe at patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month with our daily betting card posted there, goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, bonus content, a lot of it coming after the football season ends, so get ready for that. Lots of great info, insight, and again, if you ever miss the show, the card is there daily. It's patreon.com/Ice Guys, $10 a month. And to be honest with you, it's like a tip jar, honestly, because week for the life of me, I'm racking my brain trying to get this monetized, this channel, for the Ice Guys, and for some reason they keep on rejecting us. It's ridiculous. It just happened again a few days ago. So, and I know with the YouTube channels that are monetized, they have leave a tip jar, and you can do that. So that's basically our tip jar right now. Is the Patreon page, patreon.com/Ice Guys. If you enjoy what we do 7 days a week throughout the course of the NHL season, then definitely make sure you subscribe at patreon.com/Ice Guys. And again, it's just $10 a month. You get the daily betting card there and so much other great bonus content as well.
Yeah, and with the All-Star break coming up, I'll have time to update the charts fully. I also have a couple of different charts that I have on my computer that I don't really share on that or any platform, like just trends that I'm looking at with certain goalies. I'll have those posted up because we'll have time to don't have to update those every day. Just have those during the break. Also have some other fun bonus content stuff. Mikey was on during the backcast, and he actually gave me a really good idea. So I think I'm actually gonna finally catalog all of my jerseys, and I think that'll be a piece that I do on the Patreon as well. We got some stuff that we're going to both be doing on there as well. So we got a lot of fun bonus content that's a little bit different, not all just gambling related. It's just mostly on the hockey side. But when you add all of it together for $10 a month, it's a fantastic deal, and you're supporting the show.
Yeah. No. I do want to point out because someone in the chat saying Ducks, it's a setup. It's a setup. Ducks are going to win. Ducks, and look, I try to make a case for a big dog of this magnitude when I can. But it's hard to do it with Anaheim because they're so wretched defensively. Avalanche are getting Makar back. And the Avs, by the way, have won 7 straight head-to-head against the Anaheim Ducks. So you think, oh, is there a history of maybe this team taking Anaheim lightly? Not if you look at the head-to-head history. 2-0, 4-2, 5-2, 4-1. They've all been by margin. They haven't even been 1-goal victories for Colorado. Any of these 7 head-to-head meetings that they've won against Anaheim, they've all been by margin. So Colorado has clearly been able to take care of business against Anaheim. We'll see if that carries over to tonight. All right, great stuff. Best bets coming up to wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys right after we hear from Manscaped. Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, our good friends at Manscaped, who are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, courtesy of the Ice Guys. Get 20% off of any purchase and free worldwide shipping with the promo code Ice Guys. That's promo code Ice Guys, all one word, ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 400 million balls that you can help preserve with manscaped.com using the promo code Ice Guys. You get the Performance Package 4.0. It is a game changer. The Lawnmower 4.0. It takes care of this, among other things. It'll keep you trim as can be. The Lawnmower 4.0, waterproof. Same thing with the Weed Whacker, which takes care of your ear hair, nose hair. I mean, nose hair in particular. You know, I'm getting up there in age, and nose hair is becoming definitely more of an issue. This will take care of it. It feels like someone's tickling the inside of your nostrils sometimes. It pisses the hell out of me. It bothers me. I need to take care of that shit. This will take care of it for you. The Weed Whacker. Makes part of the package that you get with your Manscaped purchase and the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. You also get the ball toner. You also get the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good and looking good and feeling good down in the nether regions. This package is really going to make you feel good and look good and look better, slim, trim. That's what it's all about. And manscaped.com can help you out with that. So make sure you take advantage of this. Manscaped.com. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code Ice Guys at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the promo code Ice Guys. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, we are back here on the Ice Guys show, and we are ready to wrap it up with best bets for this Thursday slate. Alex, what do you got for best bet?
I'm sure everybody can probably figure out what I'm picking for my best bet tonight. It's Predators and Devils draw, plus 320 with the regulation draw here. 7 of the last 12 meetings have gone to overtime or a shootout. 4 straight for the Devils have gone to overtime or a shootout. This is just definitely one of those games where it feels like it could be really close. So 2-2, 3-3 affair. And they just kind of lock it down, take their point, and then settle it after 60 minutes. So let's go with Preds and Devils. Regulation draw plus 320. That's my best bet.
There you go. Preds and Devils regulation draw. Best bet here for Alex B. Smith. You get a very good price, obviously, with that. Best bet for me, Blackhawks Flames over 6. I like that one quite a bit in this one. I think we'll see goals both ways. 5 straight meetings over the total. No telling if Markstrom's going to be dialed in and playing his best. He certainly wasn't before in his recent starts, before his little hiatus. We'll see how he fares tonight. I certainly think Calgary will have their success finding the back of the net here tonight. So Chicago, Calgary over 6 in this one, minus 115 for my best bet for this Thursday NHL card. That'll wrap it up for this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. A reminder, tomorrow, by the way, we've got, I think, Jimmy joining us for his usual Friday a guest spot. And we have Nate Rapensky joining us tomorrow as well on Friday. And he's going to be joining us every 2 Fridays moving forward. So good stuff there. We've had Nate before on the show. from Minnesota, of course, as well, living there like Alex is right now. Nate will be joining us tomorrow for sure. And I think Jimmy, but we'll get confirmation before tomorrow. But nevertheless, join us tomorrow. We'll be back. And we've got a bigger Friday card than normal tomorrow. So make sure you join us. More games than normal on a Friday. The Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Friday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.